Is Catherine the Princess of Wales the victim of a malicious bot campaign paid for by foreign governments? Yes, oh yes, Whitehall came out with a report talking about how all the malicious rumors we've seen online about the Princess of Wales and her absence might have been partially funded and supported by foreign governments, specifically Russia, China, and Iran. That is huge information that these foreign governments would decide to go after essentially the Princess of Wales while she's out recovering from surgery in order to undermine the UK government. I have never heard of anything quite like this. Obviously, they had been behind campaigns, I guess, as well regarding Charles and his recent cancer diagnosis. But the idea that perhaps some of the chaos that we've seen online is actually part of foreign government efforts is really unprecedented and shows not only the power of the monarchy, but really the power of Catherine within the monarchy, that they would decide to use her to undermine an actual government. It shows Catherine's importance within the entire system and essentially how she is critical to the future of the monarchy. So much so that some governments would do all they can to undermine her credibility. I mean, when I saw this report, I just could not believe it, because this again is just monumentous and also offers some interesting questions regarding specifically Meghan Markle and social media as well, because there have been some in her corner who have said that she is a victim of bot campaigns or negative hate campaigns. But what might this report truly show? It is a fascinating thing to consider, and we are going to talk about this today because this goes beyond just royalty, because we all enjoy royalty. It is so much fun to watch different royals, but this literally goes into governance, foreign relations, so many big issues that royals, yes, they sort of touch on, but don't really go into. And I think it's a reminder as well of what a monarchy actually stands for and what its function is, because that is revealed in this. So we are going to talk about this today. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network, hello, my name is Brittany, and I provide compelling royal commentary about the latest news and sometimes the drama going on behind the scenes. So if you guys want to hit that subscribe button, that would be absolutely fabulous. We're hoping to get to 150,000 subscribers here really soon. I also have a couple other links down below if you want to check them out. Some trips I'm going on with followers if you're interested. And then I have a connection with a jewelry company as well. So all of that is down below. And so back to this topic, because I really don't want to underestimate how important this truly is, because this is just, again, a huge story. So let's go into it. This was first reported, as far as I'm aware, by the Telegraph. And I remember when I first saw this, I'm like, wow, oh wow, this is utterly unprecedented and completely and utterly crazy to think about, because this changes so much if true. It just changes so much in how we think about things in the future. So here's a page. It says China and Russia's spreading slurs against Princess of Wales. Whitehall figures fear hostile states have helped to fuel wild conspiracy theories in an attempt to destabilize nation. Think about that, guys. Catherine has the power, or Catherine's public image potentially has the power to destabilize an entire nation. That is monumentous power. That is insane levels of power. And now, does Catherine really think she has that? No. But the role she plays within the monarchy cannot be understated here, because what a monarchy is, and I feel like what people have gotten really confused with by Harry and Meghan not being clear about where they stand and everything, is that monarchs generally are the heads of state. So that means that they represent the government at home and abroad. And so in the United States, for example, we have a double system. So our government leader is the president of the United States. And not only is he the head of state, he actually runs the government. In the UK, those two roles are separate. You have the prime minister who runs the government and the king who is head of state. So when they have a state visit, yes, they meet with the prime minister and they speak with the prime minister quite a bit because he's actually the one making policies. But when it comes to the actual, you could say, representation of state and everything, it's actually Charles who is the real host. We haven't gotten indications that it could potentially be that the Emperor of Japan and his wife will come for a state visit sometime later this year. And this is a redo as they were expected to come in 2020. And obviously that had to be canceled. But when it comes to hosting the Emperor of Japan, he won't be hosted at 10 Downing Street. He'll be hosted at Buckingham Palace. And yes, again, he'll have a private meeting with the prime minister. But when it comes again to that representational aspect and all the pomp and ceremony, that is all palace led. It's the banquet is at Buckingham Palace and all these sorts of things. And so the king plays a very important role. And this is mostly throughout Europe, the role that they have in Liechtenstein. I believe they are the ruling family there, as in Monaco, but Monaco is a principality, so is Liechtenstein. So it is a little bit different. Obviously, in Jordan as well, you have the king who is, I believe, both head of state and generally the ruler. I'm not clear on the intricacies of that country and how the government runs. But as far as I'm aware, the king plays a very, very active role in governance, where that's not the case with King Charles and most of the other monarchies in Europe. So something, again, this is just interesting to consider. And because the king is head of state, obviously his next in line to the throne, which is his son, Prince William, also plays a very critical role because he will be the next head of state. And his wife, Catherine, will be the wife to the next head of state. In addition to that, she will be the mother of the next head of state of the United Kingdom. So again, all these pieces play a very, very critical role in the perception of the United Kingdom's government abroad. So attacking Catherine, that cannot be underestimated, the impact that that essentially has. So let's go back to the article here. So if it goes down here, it says China, Russia, and Iran are fueling disinformation about the Princess of Wales to destabilize the nation, Whitehall sources believe. Again, oh my gosh, that she has the power to do that is absolute insanity. But again, if they can prove, or if people keep spreading misinformation that, oh, the video of her talking about her recent diagnosis was fake, the video of her in Windsor was fake, that the Mother's Day photo was fake. And of course, I think what you'll find, or maybe what they'll find, which they don't go into here, is that if you are a foreign government and you're looking to destabilize the UK, a great way to do that is as that photoshopped picture comes out and that gets to churning, they capitalize off something like that. They were perhaps already around spreading the wildfire about the Where is Kate. Then you get the Mother's Day photo and they're like, oh, because it looks like the head of state or the family of the head of state is potentially misleading the people. And again, that's a huge thing. And then you go into the video that the son got, and then you go into her video about the diagnosis, and they're saying, well, that video was AI, her giving her diagnosis. And then they say the Windsor video was also fake. And they have this fake AI generated image of her face, which was not her face. Again, all these things go to show the power of Catherine within the British monarchy and how they can potentially damage her image, which, because she is one of the most popular royals, by extension damages the rest of the institution, and by extension as well undermines the government itself. Because if, for example, let's say, and I realize we need to go further into the article, but if, for example, the government decides, because they quote unquote can't trust the royals, to go with a different system where the prime minister inherits that role as head of state, then you have this massive sort of destabilization as they move away from the monarchy to a different government system. This would cause a lot of ruckus and a lot of disruption within the UK itself. If things went this way, the damage this could cause cannot be underestimated, and it could diminish the UK's role abroad, at home, just like so many things. So again, huge implications with this. So it goes on to say senior government figures fear that hostile states are behind the spread of wild conspiracy theories and online rumors surrounding the princess's health. After the princess announced her cancer diagnosis on Friday evening, Rishi Sunak led the condemnation of social media trolls for targeting her in recent weeks. But his intervention did not deter further frenzied commentary, with a disinformation chief saying on Sunday that the princess had been re-victimized by trolls, criticizing her for not publicly revealing her diagnosis sooner. And I've gone over this time and time again. It takes time to tell your family members. It takes time for you yourself to come to grips with what's going on. And you don't want to tell everybody right away. You might find that there's people in your life that they're diagnosed with cancer, and you might not find out until their second or third treatment. Why? Because maybe they just don't want to tell you. They don't know how to tell you. They're scared. It's such a big thing. And if you've never dealt with it, it's scary. It's frightening. She's so young. It just seems completely out of left field. And of course, everybody is going to be just very worried. And you have young children with this as well. And I hate when people say, which I've heard enough times to be very annoyed by, is that, well, the palace lied to us. And I'll get to that in a different statement, but something to the effect of where the palace lied to us. No, they didn't lie to you. They just weren't giving you all the information. There's a difference. This Ministry of Defense, Department of Defense does the same exact thing. So does your local police department. So does the FBI. They keep information from you because you don't really need to know, because it might cause a frenzy, or it might cause other issues or disruptions to public life that are completely unnecessary, because they only need to be brought to the public's attention when there is an actual real tangible risk that you need to be aware of. So that's why, when they adjust, let's say, the terrorism levels, do we still have that? I don't know. Anyways, if they adjust that, they have information that's pretty credible that they want to make us aware of, but they're not going to give us enough specifics because A, they might not know, and B, they might just not want to cause a frenzy if they're not entirely sure perhaps what the target is or something like that. Again, all of this is very complicated, but this is how generally governments operate. And this is how they need to operate, because we don't need to know all the information. We generally don't. There's somebody who does need to know all that information, but usually that's not me, that's not you. So that's perfectly fine. And it goes on to say, on Sunday, it emerged that there were growing concern in Whitehall that hostile state actors could be involved in whipping up frenzied media attacks on the princess. The government source told the Telegraph, part of the modus operandi of hostile states is to destabilize things, whether that is undermining the legitimacy of our elections or other institutions. It comes as Downing Street is preparing to announce fresh sanctions on China as soon as Monday, after a wave of state-backed cyber attacks against a group of senior MPs and peers. Again, yes, this is 100% a concern, because if you destabilize the monarchy, or if you destabilize its public image and its ability to enact trust with the people, then you have a massive, massive problem, because at the heart of any government institution is trust. If you don't trust that particular government institution, you do have definitely a serious, serious problem. You need to be able to trust the people who are leading your government. And if you can't trust them, then that causes general instability. And I believe in the US, we have been victims of that for sure, is that some people with negative intentions have stirred things up online that has resulted in a destabilizing force. And because of that, you could argue things more contentious here than they have been in times previous. I'm not trying to make any political statements, I'm just saying what I would feel like most people would think is reality here. And Catherine does the same thing. People, in certain instances, although a poll showed that this necessarily wasn't the case, is that some people might trust the monarchy less. So it was interesting. The poll results is that it showed that while the monarchy did lose ground with some people, it also gained ground with some people. So they lost some trust and they gained it. And again, these are all critical factors in how a monarchy functions and how a government institution functions, because although it is essentially a ceremonial role, Charles does still sign bills, I believe, into law essentially, and they might need his signature to officially declare war. And he goes before Parliament and he sort of sets the agenda. Obviously, that is something that the government rightly for him, but he still has that critical function. So the criticality of the monarchy, which is a 1,000-year-old institution, it's, you could argue, the oldest institution within the United Kingdom, bar the church. It is a huge, huge force there. And yes, obviously you have the change between the Catholic and the Church of England in the 1500s. But generally speaking, when it comes to the power within the country, the monarchy has been the longest serving, and the church, when it changed hands, obviously that changed things, but didn't totally change things either, because anyways, not going down that rabbit hole. But you understand what I'm saying is, if you destabilize them, one of the most critical and ancient aspects of the United Kingdom, you destabilize the country itself. So let's continue, because there is more to this article here that I think is definitely well worth discussing. And I got to say, isn't that a great picture? That was a terrible day, though. I was at the coronation. Like, there's a part of me that loved a little bit of it. I also hated it. Just going to be totally honest with you guys. It was a long, miserable day. So we're going to talk about the flood of conspiracy theories. So Imran Ahmed, chief executive of the Center for Countering Digital Hate, said the frenzied social media attacks had done damage to the royal family. When you've got a young lady, the Princess of Wales, who has suffered a medical emergency, you see people flooding in with conspiracy theories. You see them being amplified on social media platforms and pushed to millions and millions of people, he told the BBC Sunday with Laura Kusenberg. And it's not just social media, though. And I will get into this later. But the media itself played a massive role in elevating these conspiracy theories as well. What really, I think, annoyed me was seeing that she was then being re-victimized by being blamed for not having come out immediately. I think it's the inhumanity of the way social media has made us behave, forcing people to talk about things that can be very deeply personal. And also seeing the course of the impact of that on our society, how quickly it was picked up by millions of people, and how much it's done damage to the royal family themselves. Again, yes, this is totally true that the more this spread, the more people got attached to it. And I would say as well, especially in the United States, I felt like this got amplified more and more, in part because people generally have an ignorance about how a monarchy functions. And so this idea that she could, I don't understand why it's a surprise that somebody could disappear for a while from the public eye. Like, people have done it for completely legitimate reasons. I mean, Olivia Munn went through her like whole cancer treatment without people freaking out and demanding, where is Olivia Munn? And so you should be able to do those sorts of things. And of course, the monarchy explained it. And that people didn't accept that and seem to want to keep going and attacking her again and again, to me is just incredibly, not only just sad, but incredibly concerning too, because we should know better. Should we not give people time off if they ask for it? I mean, you get a time off from work. And again, they told us she had abdominal surgery. Maybe they should have changed the wording to major abdominal surgery. I inference that based on what they said, and she confirmed it in her video. But maybe they should have said that from the beginning. I don't know. I mean, come on. It's just so hard for me sometimes because it's like the statement said she had abdominal surgery and would be in the hospital for 10 to 14 days. That's obviously major surgery that resulted in potentially dangerous complications, meaning they had to keep her when she could be at home and get some of the best home care in the world. Again, don't understand. That's such a tough concept for people. Anyways, so this was just such a critical situation. And so here, let's keep going here. There's some more here. It says the palace sources have spoken of hopes that the social media giants might use the fervor to tighten systems that currently allow defamatory lies and conspiracy theories to spread unchecked. I disagree with this because part of the thing that's going on here is that people do have the right to free speech, and the media should rightly call it out when the free speech is dumb. In this instance, we all knew the hashtag "Where is Kate" is stupid. We all knew it was stupid. Those in the media, or me, like, I would say I'm like a branch of the minor media or something. I don't know. I'm in the like minor leagues of, you could say, media baseball. And so I called it stupid. I did a whole video, the stupidity of "Where is Kate." I did a whole video on it. I did the stupidity of the photoshopping stuff because I thought that was incredibly stupid. But this itself, again, is calling for censorship, and that's potentially dangerous. But the thing is, what they should be focusing on is bots and potentially bot campaigns. That's the difference there. And I'll show you actually an example of bots that I found. It says concerns have been raised in the past about suspicious bot-like Twitter accounts and handles linked to Russian conspiracy theorists that have been obsessively tweeting about the Duchess of Sussex. An analysis of accounts that together created a Meghan Markle Twitter community found around 1,000 highly connected ones that had tweeted more than 2.5 million times over a 6-month period in 2018 to 2019. Again, I have a huge questions about that because they didn't link a source, and if that source is Bot Sentinel, I really would call that into question because that is the company created by the guy who was featured in Harry and Meghan's documentary. And because he is an avid Harry and Meghan fan, I think anything that he does is potentially suspect about them because he has a vested interest because it suits his agenda to prove that, yes, they were the victims of all this. But I think, too, should that be investigated? Sure. But I also know as well, there's a lot of people who don't like Meghan Markle. And basically every poll that has come out has shown a lot of people don't like Meghan Markle. So anyways, it goes on to say one account that was the second highest number of pro-Meghan followers, which also tweeted about U.S. politics from a pro-democratic perspective, appeared to indicate bot-like activity, while the fourth most shared account frequently tweeted from Russia Today and questioned Sergei Skripal's near-fatal Novichok poisoning in Sainsbury in 2018. The research, published in 2019 by 89up, the consultancy firm which carried out an analysis of Facebook data for a culture and media select committee report, found an unusually high reach for the narrow interconnected group of Meghan fans. So this starts getting, I feel like, a little suspect here because the Telegraph is talking about anti-Meghan Twitter accounts, then it's talking about a pro-Meghan Twitter account that also seen Spotlight, and then back to anti-Meghan, you could say, social media activity. So I think that aspect of the report is a little wishy-washy because I'm like, okay, where are they supposed to fall in this particular angle? But I did want to bring up something about this is that I think when it comes to this whole conspiracy theory nonsense, the real danger here is yes, things being spread on social media. Of course, that is a huge, huge problem. And it should have been addressed in a lot of ways. And I think, and I would argue that the palace maybe should have had a better strategy in mind. They seem to be like, well, if something is just not worth our time, really, we sort of ignore it and just hope it goes away. That's sometimes how they come across. And granted, you could argue that I'm overreaching things, but I think sometimes they want to ignore things, hoping things go away. And in some instances, from a PR strategy, that is a good point of view. But I think in the case of the Rose Hanbury affair rumor, they should have done more to address that because that's still lingering on. It's been 5+ years, and we all know that's completely bogus. And then you have the stuff going on with Catherine as well. Yes, they could not. I don't think the staff necessarily knew for sure what was going on. I think they suspected things had gotten more serious than what they were initially told. But at the same time, too, if they don't have the information, they can't really combat things well. But at the same time, the culprit here, who I think is the worst culprit in all of this, is the mainstream media itself. Because it's one thing if things are spreading on social media. Yes, people get a ton of their information from social media. Of course they do. It drives news all the time. But it's when it gets into the mainstream media that it gives it validity it did not have. When you have so many major publications going hashtag where is Kate, propagating, oh, look, the photoshopped rumors. You got the press agency in France complaining about the Mother's Day picture and making this sort of, I would call it misogynistic content going, well, if she had done Photoshop for us, she would never have gotten a job. Like so many nasty, nasty things that even the mainstream media got attached to. You have Piers Morgan as well, who said, oh, no, because of all this, we need greater access. Like the monarchy, that we can't trust them. We need to get in there more and more. Like they try to do things themselves. It doesn't work. And I somewhat understand that, but obviously we didn't know the truth. But at the same time, too, it seems like the people in the media who were going on and on and on about access are all of a sudden taking like 12 steps back and blaming the palace for their own stinking blunders. And there's a great article from the LA Times about it because they're like, well, this is a PR mess of the palace. And you read through the article or at least the bits of it, and you're like, really? Or is this on you guys? Because when the crazies are going off on social media, what you don't want to do is tell the public, hey, there might be a good reason behind this by making articles about it, going off of the hashtag where is Kate. And yes, they did explain things, but I feel like in some ways too, they were starting to buy into it. And because they bought into it, they amplified what was nonsense and made it valid. They gave it a foundation where it did not deserve one. Because I mean, even Megyn Kelly, I'm not a huge Megyn Kelly fan, but I caught part of her interview with Dan Wooten and some of it was interesting. But then she's also going on about, well, it looks like the picture from Kate is the same one from the Vanity Fair cover. And I'm like, really, Megyn Kelly? No offense to Megyn Kelly, but seriously, you're a journalist. You should know a bit better. You should know a bit better. And of course, not everybody likes Megyn Kelly, but that's the thing that people gave some of it a foundation. Even people who have, you could say, a bigger voice within the journalistic sphere. It gave the crazies, and now it looks like foreign governments a greater stand to try to undermine the UK government. So bravo, guys, bravo. So let's get into this Los Angeles Times article. And y'all can probably tell I'm a bit fired up about this. I actually technically did a video on something else yesterday, but it just took me like forever to get my point across, which included this aspect about the media. So I'm not glad because it's bad news, but the news about the bots actually matches well with what I was previously going with. And I had talked about this article. Here's it here. Don't blame the public for failing Kate Middleton. Blame the palace. And I'm like, really, Los Angeles Times, you don't really need to go here because we all know that Sometimes too, when you guys buy into it, you also make things worse. And again, I think that was the case in this instance. So it begins. Not on Kate's part, I hasten to add. Those who control the royal communications apparatus are to blame for that mess. And frankly, for the entire Where's Kate situation by ostensibly trying to protect her privacy. The silence of Kensington Palace made Kate the center of a string of news cycles. Obviously, the convulsions of Reddit are not the Wales's primary concern at the moment, but the ancillary coverage, including ours, can't be helped. Can it? I think it could be helped, guys. I think it could be helped. I think you got a message that she wouldn't be back until after Easter, and you decided that that wasn't good enough for you. You didn't care about Catherine and what was going on with her. You cared about you. That's the truth. And while it would have been easy to blame the internet or the salacious nature of royal gossip, the palace should have known better. After being fed a steady diet of ever-smiling, perfectly styled princess for years, the public was inevitably going to question her prolonged absence and the very vague explanations for it. Yeah, like she had surgery and would be out till Easter. I fail to understand why that is a hard concept for the Los Angeles Times to wrap their head around. Why is that hard? That's not hard. Again, it's like explaining gravity to a chicken. Why do you have to explain to somebody why they've decided to take some time off for a reason regarding surgery? That should be sort of what they can do if they're a person who is going through that. They should be able to stay at home. Like if somebody left work for a while and said, I was having surgery and needed time to recover, you don't need that information about what that surgery was about. You don't, and you don't need it in this situation either. And the vague explanations were perfectly fine. You just didn't like it. And you decided you wanted to buy into foreign social media campaigns against Catherine. Why not just let people know the truth, for heaven's sakes? Because she didn't want to, guys. This is not hard. Okay. Most people have experience with cancer, if not their own family members or friends. If today's announcement had been made in February or even 2 weeks ago, we could all be sending the princess and her family our thoughts and prayers instead of wondering where her wedding ring was or if a stand-in had been used for the most recent Prince and Princess of Wales go shopping photo. Okay, again, this is a media problem. This is a you problem, not a Catherine problem. She wasn't wearing her ring probably because she was at home and didn't really want to wear it at that moment. Again, I feel like there's such a difference between Meghan Markle not wearing her ring for over a year or about a year and Catherine taking it off for one single picture. Catherine has hardly ever taken that ring off. And maybe she does take it off at home. It's a big ring. Maybe she worries about damaging it. She's out with her kids. She doesn't want to wear it at that particular moment. What is the deal? That should not be a problem. That is your problem. Again, somehow Kate missing her ring is a huge deal, but Meghan missing it for a whole stinking year, nobody seems to care? Like, come on now, give me a break. Again, this is all the media concocting ridiculous narratives that are 150% not true to suit their own agenda. So Meredith Blake, because it was sort of a conversation between two people, she said, I think it's clear that the firm has failed Kate on many levels with this entire debacle. The messaging has been catastrophic from day one. If there is anything that Kate has earned after decades of unwavering perfection in the face of relentless scrutiny of years under enormous pressure without ever putting a foot wrong, it's the right to a few months away from the prying eyes of the public and mean-hungry internet hordes, a group that includes me, which you also piled on, by the way, to continue harassing her, even when she had asked for privacy months earlier. Just letting you know. Given what we know, the jokes about Kate isolating while she grew out her bangs or recovered from a Brazilian butt lift seem cruel and stupid. Were stupid at the time. They're stupid now. And the media should have known that. At the same time, I wish that's all Kate were dealing with. As to the why of it all, one part of Kate's message that really stood out to me and frankly made me feel awfully guilty for playing some microscopic part in all this mess is when she explained her absence from the public eye over the last few weeks by saying it has taken time to explain everything to George, Charlotte, and Louis in a way that is appropriate for them and reassure them that I am going to be okay. Yes, she should have the right to privacy to talk to her own children about a devastating diagnosis. That should not be an issue. In other words, she didn't want the world to know what was going on with her health before she'd been able to talk to her kids about it. Oh, shocking. Or before she had some grasp on it herself. Golly, I've got kids the same age as Kate's, and they are old enough to understand the gravity of a cancer diagnosis. I can completely understand why she wanted to wait to make any kind of public statement and to process this news in private with her children. For Charles, her father-in-law, things are different. His children are grown, and he is the monarch, not the spouse of the heir to the throne. So his health is an urgent matter of national interest. Yes, oh yes, but again, they are avoiding their culpability here. They're going, well, we totally understand, but we also enjoyed the memes. That's what they're essentially saying there, is that they enjoyed the memes. They enjoyed all the chaos. They enjoyed it. The media totally lapped it up. And because of that, they, again, and I love saying this because it's good to know you guys may have played into campaigns created by China, Russia, and Iran to destabilize the UK. Bravo. Bravo. You did a wonderful job. Wonderful job. Yes, the sarcasm is there because again, like I was saying, it was stupid. And none of the articles I saw, usually they start off with hashtag where is Kate is trending. Why? Like they came at it from a way of not just saying explicitly, this is trending. This should not be trending. We know what's going on. Stop it, is what should have been going on. But again, they elevated everything. They elevated it. They gave it a foundation and allowed it to fester when it didn't need to fester. And so this next little bit, I will say, guys, when it was coming to recording this, I actually, the way the stuff popped up for me, I wasn't looking at the right things. I read the wrong thing technically, but this is the last little bit of the article here. I think this whole disaster has shown that the palace's communications team is not suited to the task of shaping the public image of the royal family in an era where memes and conspiracy theories take off at lightning speed. That being said, I'm not entirely sure what they could have done or should have done differently. Oh, wow. Really? So you think they weren't responsive enough, but you're also not sure what they could have done differently. Okay, that's, great help there. If Kate wanted to keep the news private, completely reasonable choice, then what else could or should they have done other than brushing up on their Photoshop skills? Not blaming the whole thing on Kate, a woman with cancer. They didn't do that in Los Angeles Times. They did not blame her. She took responsibility for her own mistake like a grown-up professional. That's what she did. She did not throw her staff under the bus, which she could have done. They could have totally thrown their staff under the bus, but no. She took responsibility for it like a good superior should. Last few days, I had started to think about Categate in light of the frenzy around Britney Spears and her conservatorship, something that originated with her most devoted fans on social media and became a massive news story. Hashtag Free Britney advocates were dismissed as crazy, but ultimately vindicated. Have you seen Britney Spears on social media? Gyrating, sometimes half naked or even naked on social media. Yeah. So I think the conservatorship was there for a reason. And now she is out of it. And I don't think it's necessarily a good thing. I just don't think so. So again, sometimes you don't know everything and you get a bee in your bonnet and you think you have the right to something where it turns out, I think probably in some ways, maybe Britney Spears would have been better served still under conservatorship. Maybe not her father, but maybe somebody else, because she doesn't look good when she's on social media. Like I've seen her makeup always looks like she is coming off like a 24-hour party bender or something. It's like, I just feel so stinking sorry for her. And I just wonder if the crazy people who encouraged her to be free of her conservatorship share a massive part of the blame, and perhaps, maybe potentially her having issues down the road, maybe going bankrupt or something like that, because they insisted that they knew better than her medical professionals. Just saying. I don't want to claim that those of us who have been concerned by, or at least obsessed with Kate's situation the past few weeks were right to go down the rabbit hole, but clearly this was not a QAnon from wine moms, as one major national publication has dubbed it. Yes, it was. You guys were crazy pants. You were absolutely crazy pants. And then it turned out you might have been manipulated by foreign agents from Russia, China, and Iran. Bravo. Bravo, mainstream media. Bravo there. It turned out that things were worse than the palace was letting on, and probably that they did not know. And the people in charge of managing Kate's image were failing her spectacularly. Well, you did too, mainstream media. You, of course, did too. You didn't know what was going on. And you made all these outrageous demands. Like I just saw people, it's like, well, we need photographers to get in there. We need her paraded around so that we all feel better about where is Kate, even though they told us exactly where she was. Like I had no issue with it. I still don't get it. She told us she had surgery and needed to recover. How is that so startling and frightening and terrifying and all these sorts of things? I don't know. I don't get it, guys. I really, really don't get it. And you can tell I'm like wired about this thing. And that is because I feel like the mainstream media does have an obligation to share truth when they know truth. And they did all know truth. And yet they're sort of backing away from their culpability here and blaming everything on the palace when they also could have been professionals in this situation. And I do want to show you guys real quick the little sort of bot situation that I may have found would totally by accident because somebody had responded to one of these tweets and then they responded to the other one. And I don't know if they actually realized that they are the exact same tweet. That they are the exact same thing. So let me show you it here. All right, guys. So these are the tweets. You'll notice right here, they are identical. They're completely and utterly identical. And I remember looking at these going, oh my gosh, they're exact same. So the one there on the right, I noticed that that account had just been created this year in February or March. I can't exactly remember. The other one was created in 2010, I think. So it's an older account. I wonder maybe it had been claimed or something by. But look at where all the descriptors are exactly the same. And yeah, somebody maybe could have copied and pasted. But I don't feel like people do that much on social media. They can just repost it. It's just absolutely bizarre. And you can tell, so it's actually a little video that, she is moving her hands in the ring. I think it might be that she wasn't wearing the ring because the ring is very big and she's lost weight. And so the ring is really loose. And so as she moved her hands, the weight of the ring naturally made it slide under her other finger a bit. And then as she brought it up, she naturally, because she's been doing this for the last 10 plus years, adjusted it and flipped it up probably with her pinky or something like that. Just a very, very natural gesture. But again, I was just shocked by just how utterly identical these are. Completely and utterly identical. Now, this obviously has interesting implications for what is going on with Meghan, that the government was interested in investigating Catherine and all the bot attacks against her, and perhaps maybe not as much Meghan, reveals some interesting things, I think. Number one is that obviously Catherine is much more important than Meghan. Just at the end of the day, Catherine has this constitutional role that Meghan does not have. Catherine, again, is the wife of the future king, the mother of another future king, the grandmother of another future king or queen. So she will have a significant impacting role on the future of the monarchy. Her blood now runs through the monarchy essentially and its entire future. That's not the case with Meghan. So it behooves the government to definitely do all they can to protect Catherine in this instance. The other interesting thing is obviously there has been concerted efforts by Bot Sentinel and other places to try to prove that there is a social media little connected thing that is anti-Meghan. And while I think that could be somewhat true and that there could be bots attached to that as well, I think the situation with Meghan mostly happened organically. I think people generally had questions about Meghan, didn't really like Meghan. And so they naturally sort of came together and, were sort of tweeting the same thing. That's how I came to it. And so it's just an interesting comparison to think that perhaps some of what happened to Catherine was artificial, whereas I think the things with Meghan happened more organically. But again, I could be totally wrong there. I would be interested to see a decent report on that because again, given that the Telegraph doesn't cite the source for saying all the supposed hate social media accounts against Meghan, if they are using information from Bot Sentinel, again, I do highly question their conclusions when it comes to Meghan. And so this is just so, again, I cannot emphasize enough how critical this is for Catherine and her future in the monarchy. This is just so huge and shows again her utter and extreme importance to the future stability of the monarchy. If they can undermine Catherine and by extension William, George, Charles, that may result in a lasting black mark on the face of the monarchy. And these bots, if that's what is going on, somewhat succeeded by getting the photograph pulled and basically trying to diminish the trust in the monarchy because we all knew they photoshopped images or enhanced them. We all knew that. The big question was how much. And honestly, I don't care really that much because I don't think they're necessarily trying to create fake images. I just think they're trying to make the best images for the public. And of course, those with bad intentions exploited that. And so it's just so sad to see this happen for Catherine. And yet at the same time, I'm just so amazed by the role, the power, the influence she has in the public perception of the monarchy. That cannot be understated in the slightest. And I hope the government takes these attacks against her very, very personally and does all they can to protect her because she and her family are the future of the monarchy. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what you think. I look forward to hearing from you, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.